evening. Welcome to the October 24th, 2016 Architecture and Historic Review Board. First item on the agenda is 21 Cedar Street. Is anyone from 21? No? We'll put that to the end. Come back to it after we're done. Next item, number 2 on the agenda is 12 Ashford Avenue. Chase Bank.
I feel like I'm spread out today.
Yeah. Hi, could you state your name?
James Polanski from Signs Inc., representing the Chase Bank. What we're looking to do, we're proposing 2 new signs at the location. Since now we have another building that's kind of impeding on all the traffic in the area. We used to drive through pretty clearly one way. Now it seems that people are getting a little confused. We're looking for one sign in the front that's going to be an exit sign only. So people know that it'll come around the corner, and then what you're trying to look for a predominant sign that they can notice the entrance into the Chase parking lot. That would be on Broadway Avenue. So that's really the entrance into the bank, and then you just exit out the other entrance, or the other exit, I should say. The freestanding sign, let's say the exit sign that you would see in the front of the building, it's a non-illuminated sign. It goes with all the other Chase banks in the area that kind of have a very similar sign program. So that would be the exit only sign. The freestanding sign that would be on Wall Grove would be a downlit sign, which is just a very light illumination, just so you can read the Chase logo.
And the sign on Ashford, what's the purpose of that sign?
Just so people see the exit, so people aren't turning into there. You see the one-way sign.
I see. Okay. So it's a traffic directional.
It's also a directional
Yeah.
sign.
I mean, how does that serve a better purpose than the large one-way arrow sign? It seems and so I'm looking at this this image, which is of the front of the building, a kind of perspectival photograph.
Yeah.
And there's a high sign that's with illumination at night above the door and nice big letters, and then there's the one-way sign, and so I'm curious if this is not
just one
superfluous.
just one more sign that to let people know this is the exit only. You know, it's at the eye level of the vehicles when they're coming in. Almost every other Chase branch does have that sign. Some have one on the entrance as well, showing, pointing the arrow into the parking lot for the tellers. And this side, we're not looking for that. We just feel that this is going to. Chase spends a lot of money and they do a lot of research on their parking lots. They try to keep them very flowing and free accidents or anything like that. That's one thing that they've always done. So we just think that would be one more sign to just help keep people from turning into that area.
I don't know how everyone else feels about this. I don't really. I mean, I understand that sometimes large organizations like this one have a program for signage, and that program gets distributed ubiquitously to all suburban Chase locations. However, in this case, I believe there's also a no. Actually, I don't know if this is there also a no left turn sign on the other side of Ashford here?
Yes.
So it's to me, you add more signs saying the same thing and actually take away the usefulness of the signs.
There's no left turn when you're looking out of that parking lot.
Okay, so that's not going.
Walgreens.
It's going out of Walgreens or going out of the parking lot. It's not on.
Coming out of Walgreens.
Yeah. Okay. I
Across
confused
the
the
street.
two. That's right.
I think an arrow on the actual ground would serve the exact same purpose and be much more I mean, the one-way sign in itself,
I just see the one way, it's, you know, I mean, it's a sort of standard street signage.
I see it more as another signage for Chase, more than.
Yeah, I know, except it's written on the building, on the side, on the front.
It's a bank.
I think that if its purpose is to guide people not to enter that side, I don't think it's gonna succeed at doing that.
Yeah, it's too small.
Because it's almost unreadable in the graphic that you're providing to us, and it's not red, it's white, it's attractive, but wouldn't you be better served by a do not enter sign? If you're trying to keep people from coming into that exit.
Would you be opposed to keeping the same monument-style sign and adding a red do not enter sign onto it?
It would probably be more effective than what's on it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I don't want to clutter it up even more. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the one way does the trick, but let me just tell you I'll give you all my comments about this. I also, just towards the back, I realize that a new building has gone up as your next door neighbor, and that's a very large building. However, this is the point at which this street becomes a residential one, and so you've got the gas station, you've got the bigger building, and then it sort of calms down a little bit as you work your way up Walgrove. So I would just, this is a very large sign for the entrance to a residential neighborhood. So, again, I'm a little hesitant about the size of the sign. I think traffic is slow on this part of the street.
Well, there's also now another very large parking lot right next to it. For the, so we want to be able to see, once you make the left onto Walgrove, that you see, okay, this is the Chase Bank entry, right there. Not pull into that first parking lot that's there.
To the, I understand you want to improve the signage, it's very large. It's a very big sign for
is the
it.
pylon lit or is it non-illuminated?
It comes down like
The pylon itself?
So,
All right.
yes. Where in most cases, they do have internally lit sign, so that would,
That's what the standard detail you have here, right, is a lit sign? Or is that just to serve the top down lights? I don't see the actual lights. I assume that they're integral to the pylon itself?
Yeah, it's on top of the sign itself. I'm not sure if you got one of those, you should have one of those permit sheets and the package, I don't know if everybody's got
I
it.
just have this,
We just have
Yeah,
this
that.
rendering?
see there's like a little T
Yeah.
in the section. I'm
But
guessing there's
Something
light,
inside?
That would be the down light, yeah.
fabricated aluminum lighting topper with internal illumination to provide downlight.
Don't even know where to.
Okay.
It is, I mean, it's gross, it's much, much larger than what's there in terms of existing.
You have like a more complicated corner to visualize the entrance. It's a hidden entrance that you almost don't see it. I was driving the other day and almost hit the curb going up.
That's because I was in the car and I was
Yeah.
seeing something really funny.
So I see the purpose of a bigger sign because it really needs to identify the curb and identify the,
Yeah, I just did the drive-through now, on my way here tonight, and it's.
and for the sign on Ashford, the sign itself is a 3-foot sign.
No, it's
behind
harmless,
the
I understand,
bush,
I
and all you
understand
wanna
that.
see
Just-
is
I was
this, and it's the blue and the typical Chase. I don't think it's.
I have less of a problem with the tall pylon because of marking that specific parking lot than I do with the one in the front. Because I think the one in the front really doesn't serve the purpose that you're intending it to serve.
Yeah, it makes it a little messier out there.
For me, it's not about signage per se, it's more about, guiding people
Traffic
to traffic. It's more about saying this is a bank,
Yeah.
But isn't the problem just street light illumination, why you miss the entrance there?
Yeah. No,
This doesn't resolve that.
doesn't do much for signage, for traffic, but it does for,
They wanted to.
Dressing
come
up
in-
the area.
They wanted to come in and add, streetlights in the parking lot, that it's gonna be the same issue with a residential neighborhood.
I'm not opposed to the small sign, but I understand the concerns, their concerns.
I believe the way the lighting is built, everything, is contained in it, and it's gonna shine directly onto the ground, onto the sign. There will be no spillover into the residential neighborhood.
The current sign lit?
The current sign is lit, yes. The current sign is lit with LED. And like I said, the way this traffic is gonna be a straight down,
I'm not worried about the lighting, I'm more concerned about the scale.
Yeah,
Relative.
You're coming up the street, you're gonna have a big sign here, but tall, for the
Taller
tall
than-
sign, twice as tall as that Stop and Shop sign, which is,
I mean, other than scale without a tape measure out there, it also looks like it's taller than the left lane must turn sign directly next to it.
yeah. I just think it's way too big. I don't think anyone's gonna miss the turn if the sign gets smaller on Walgrove. And I think I was pretty clear, I think that the sign out on Ashford doesn't serve either the purpose of advertising or traffic direction. But I'm 1 of 4 here, so
Is there a smaller scale sign that you could propose on Walgrove? Is there one that's proportionally smaller by about maybe 2/3 the size?
Like matching what's the?
Yeah, the street sign.
The street sign is
It's just-
here, proportionally. It's like
I think you
about
can achieve
20-25% smaller.
the wayfinding, and you can achieve a sign that's high enough up that's within view from the perspective of the driver,
So-
without having to go almost 14 feet,
So like a 10-foot.
somewhere in that range. But it would be, if you could show us, if you could have someone just put a tape out there and just Photoshop that in to this image and this image. That's on your sheet of photographs, it's the upper right, which is looking up Walgrove from the corner of Ashford. And then the other direction, looking down, towards the intersection from
I got you.
the residential. I think that's important for us to see.
So get the height of that left lane sign.
Yeah, or, if you can do the same, sort of
Yeah,
simple
so
Photoshop montage where you do
And
this,
get it into something. or
get it
so-
in those two.
And so you see the height of that sign exactly?
Yeah, and maybe you give us maybe you look at it proportionally, you give us an option or two, and, we try to find something that's
Something
sensible.
closer than.
Any other comments about the sign while we're here?
Would it make sense if there's the red circle with the minus sign on it in the front of this sign instead of saying exit only? I mean, the universal. do not
Yeah,
enter sign?
my opinion about this is that
That
the
is-
tall one-way sign that, is the universal indicator of
Yeah.
one way.
Yeah.
Do not enter. I mean, I feel, I think a big red sign like that in an area where there's real danger of going down a one-way is necessary, but here, I mean, traffic is very slow, visibility is pretty good. I don't think people are, whipping around.
Well, I can bring an option of that.
Okay.
Because I have to return anyway for the.
Okay.
For the sign, I'll bring an option of that, because that is also one of the things in their grant book is that, the circle with the red, and we can try that and see.
I think
I think it's gonna be
if you want to
more-
save the
more
money,
clear.
just put a big arrow here, going one way, and then paint it on the floor, and that's it.
All right, I think, consider some of those options and, consult with your client and come back to our next hearing in 2, are we meeting in 2 weeks, Ed?
14.
14th, November 14th.
Okay.
Any other questions while, no?
Thank you.
Motion.
So, yeah, then just the reduction of the size of the sign looks okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you, when you take a photograph, maybe put like someone that we can measure. I don't think it's 13 feet on the picture. It's more or less, but.
I'm gonna, on my way out, I'm gonna get a measurement of that, the sign is right there.
Right.
To do not
So you
Yeah.
So we can scale it.
We can scale it properly. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Second.
Dale seconds, unanimous.
Yep.
Okay, see you next time.
Okay.
Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, did you skip over number one?
I called them,
For the end.
21 Cedar
They
Street.
didn't recognize the address because he's sitting over there.
Oh, are you here for 21 Cedar Street?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, why don't you come up?
Introduce yourself.
I'm representing my own business, General Communications, putting up a store in 21 Cedar Street.
And is there any question about the size of the graphic, the orange graphic to the left of Boost Mobile?
Sorry. 20 inches high? No.
26.
20 and an eighth by 26 inches.
The lettering is within scale. We usually don't limit the
Just-
graphic.
Okay.
Just the size of the sign and the text.
Okay. Any comments?
Any comment?
Looks fine.
That's fine.
It's fine. Okay, looks good to us. Make a motion, we approve the sign as submitted. Do you have a second?
Second.
Yeah, your second's unanimous. Thank you. Good luck. That's it.
Good luck.
What are you gonna do?
420 Broadway.
Good evening, John, from the Station Road, Ringland. Representing Power Roadkeeper.
Can you tell me the height of this existing sign?
Yeah, existing size is 12 feet, right?
12 feet. That's 12 feet to the top.
Top, correct.
And is there any additional signage that's going to go on the building? So you included this image that had signage that's covered.
We were just, at first they wanted to put a red and yellow band on it, that said Food Mart, and then they decided to take that off and make it all white.
Okay, so you just, so no signage.
Plus,
So what is this? There's like, there's some kind of, there's something up there, some sort of banner at the moment? What is
There
that?
used to be a Getty banner that just had a red and yellow stripe on it, that said Getty on the end.
It's in here, you can see it in that one.
Yeah, so are you gonna remove this so you can see the roof?
The roof actually doesn't extend all the way down, it's just bracing, holding that up.
I can see it beyond in the corner here.
Yeah, it doesn't completely finish there though, so we just figured it would look better just painting it white.
Mm.
We're gonna repaint the shingles.
Well, let's talk first about the sign, and then we'll get to this, which is not actually part of your application. But I asked the size of the existing sign because the 18 feet seems excessive to me.
Yeah, it's supposed to say 13, I seen that earlier, I don't know why they made it 18, because that existing gay sign is 4 by 10.
Okay,
And we're gonna make it a 5 by 5 we're proposing, so it's gonna go up 1 foot. So I don't know why they put 18 instead of 13.
okay, that's important.
Yes, I seen that.
So 1 second, so if you're correct, it means that it's 60 inches, the top, the shell sign, and 60 inches for the next group.
Yeah, that we,
So that's
doesn't
gonna,
leave you head clearance.
that's gonna be like 10 feet, so the bottom of the foot mark, whatever it is there, it's gonna be at 2 feet, or 3 feet, so it's not gonna be readable from the street. So I think the 18 feet is probably intended to be correct.
It also, I don't think you can, I mean, I don't actually know what our sign code says about this, Ed, but can you put a sign like this that you can't walk under?
No, we need 7-foot clearance.
We need 7, more than, so 6, 8, 7 feet, you need 7-foot clearance underneath.
The sign itself is set back from the road a little though.
Yeah, do you see where it is in here? It's not really,
No, it's not that.
Yeah, for.
you know, it would depend on what happened with that adjacent property, in a way.
Yeah.
Right, it's not gonna
It's
impede
not
the
walk.
sidewalk.
It's
Yeah.
not the same.
Well,
But I think the strategy that they had before, to make it visible, because if it's 12 feet, I think it's 5 by 5, it's huge.
that's huge. I bet this sign is 5 feet wide.
That's-
So
Double
now,
that height,
The
yeah.
existing sign right now is 10 feet wide.
that's 10 feet?
Correct.
No, it can't be.
No, you just said that this was 12 feet. So that is not the same dimension.
That existing getty is, it's 10 by 4 tall.
You mean this is 10 by 4?
This, but then you said the entire thing was
No,
12
so
feet.
then
It
it's
just doesn't
more
add
than
up.
12 feet.
Then this is more than 12 feet. Similarly to the previous applicant, I think that this needs to be drawn to scale for the height you're proposing. Because, and then that needs to be, you need to do a photo montage into this to scale. So, and I would like to see some kind of, just put some dimensions on here when you put it in here. Because I think I'd like to know the height of this sign, its overall size, because ultimately what I'm going to ask is that you don't make the new sign any larger than the existing sign. I mean, if it changes character or proportion to some degree, or, you're gonna add a couple of elements, I understand, and that's where I think we'll have a little flexibility, but not if you're gonna propose, a sign that's a third taller and twice as large in area.
Right, well, the overall square footage on that sign right there is 55, and we're gonna be making ours 50. So we're actually gonna be going 5 foot smaller.
The main shell sign. But what about the rest of
Just
the
don't understand
the
that.
signage below it
No, I think there is,
altogether? Just doesn't look right on paper.
something is off.
Each sign, the shell sign is 5 by 5, and
Yes.
the price is gonna be 5 by 5.
Yeah, that's clear from this. However, the way that this makes sense is with an 18-foot overall height, so that this is far enough off the ground that these 4 signs are readable from a distance.
Yeah, I think it's.
What you need for people to compare gas prices and choose
you.
you.
Being like 4 feet off the ground when
Look, the way that it's drawn now, I think the 18 feet is correct in the drawing. The drawing is correct.
Okay.
So what I support Michael's request to photo montage this and see what's the reality of the site.
Okay.
And really measure this. I don't know if it's 12 feet, because if it's another 6 feet, it's gonna bring us, let's say, all the way up here.
Right.
Maybe it's smaller. But I think it's gonna help you and everybody understand
Yeah, I understand.
what the
exactly.
signage is.
Absolutely.
I know you're not here for this, but I would urge you to remove these
Yes.
elements
Okay.
or speak to the owners and fix the little bits of the roof that, you're gonna have to fix when you remove the bracing. I can see that the roof continues down, so it's not as though you need a whole new roof on here. But I think this is, gas stations are difficult because there are a lot of things that we don't generally agree are welcome in terms of visibility, for our village. And so, this is one of the toughest corners because there's two gas stations. There's a lot of vacant space. There's a lot of signage that is really kind of out of control. And so I think you have an opportunity to make the building a little bit more attractive by removing this big band instead of just painting it white. So I would add that to the sign agenda. Anyone else? No?
I agree.
Okay. We're meeting again on the 14th. We'd be happy to see this. Please come. Please give us some dimensions on this drawing, on this
Yes.
photograph, and then photo montage, whichever you decide to, whichever of these with the correct dimensions to scale in this drawing. And then we can.
Not just to the height of the top, but maybe to the height of the bottom elements as well?
Yeah,
From
just-
the ground, just to understand if there's changes later?
You might also want to look at a variation on the sign, not only what you're proposing now, but a variation that's, again, 25% smaller.
Yeah.
Because I think if you clean up the building and you just have the one sign there, it'll be much more impactful. So we might go for a larger sign, I would think, if everything else got cleaned up too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the building no longer looks as, like a gas station as much with that big awning or whatever used to be there, or the Getty sign. I think it gives a greater point or greater case for you to have a more prominent sign. Right? I agree.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Second?
And seconds, unanimous. Thank you. See you in a couple weeks. For Florence Avenue, please.
Actually need to see the fencing.
Oh, okay. Looks good.
First chain link fence I've ever seen.
My name is Diane, and that's my property is 4 Florence Avenue. I'm looking to include, I have a side yard, and I have 3 yards. And I'm actually looking to just include the yard with a 4-foot, flat chain link fence, like that up there.
Okay.
Where? Could you come up for just a moment? I have your survey. Could you just point on here where you're gonna put the fence?
Yes, there was, you should have.
This one has it on?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The fence is actually going to go,
Is it wrapping like that?
it's going,
Oh, is this a,
It looks,
oh, it's that, but I would like to see it on the site plan.
well, it's 100 by
What's this?
100.
Oh,
Well, that's 100 by 100, so it's, I don't know which one is in case you put.
Yeah. I don't know what it's, 25 copies of chain link fence.
Oh, I didn't get that one. I got an extra of the other one, but.
Oh,
May not
okay.
have come out well on the copy, that's
Oh.
why you're probably looking at two surveys, which I apologize, didn't make sense.
I got it.
'Cause you
Yep.
have-
I got it, yeah, right here, okay.
There.
So the front, and the property's up high, so the bushes that are there, you're not going to see in the front anyway. So it's the front, this side, and you have those pictures of the side where my neighbor has the
So
solar.
where's that picture taken from?
That's from my, standing at my front door, looking to the side yard.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
It's good to me.
So this picture is here.
So the fence is actually gonna run up and intersect with this white fence in the back?
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Is there a fence there now or something?
No, that's just all of her bushes, the one next
Is
to.
this like behind those chairs? Or-
It's like a small retaining wall.
It's a bit of a wall,
Oh,
and then just
okay.
all over the bushes and stuff there, yeah.
So is your fence going in front of the wall on your property?
That's her wall, that's
Her
where
wall.
I'm at.
Yeah, that's fine.
Still not sure where this is going.
This is what I understood.
Yeah, that's the, yeah, it's actually, historical map in there,
Okay,
but this is it.
so this and this, and where else? Okay, this is a problem. Right there, that line there is yours?
It's gonna come off the house, there's gonna be an opening there on the front.
Okay, we can't have chain link in the front yard. So forward of the front plane of the house can't be chain link. So if you come across and do the whole side, rear, but not forward of the house.
Or what people often do is, this is one type of fence, fence type A. And then, you have fence type B at the back, that kind of, this is A
So what would be acceptable?
and B.
Open wood picket for the front yard. Or you could just say, if you want to keep that front enclosed,
I need to leave that much.
right, that this portion would have to be wood.
Different type of
4 foot
fence.
high.
Or, yeah, like a black aluminum post.
To do that, yeah.
Pool enclosure type, like from
Like what looks to be wrought iron, but they
Like
make it an
metal spark.
economical aluminum
Like a
black.
pool, like you see it often. in
Yeah,
those
exactly.
pools.
Yeah.
That would match probably a
Would
little
match your
better
railing.
with
Okay,
the rest of what you've got going on.
Be similar to your railing on the front here.
okay. I think that would actually probably look better.
It will look good.
Okay,
So,
I don't have sample.
I know. We don't necessarily need a sample, but we do need like a photograph or a sketch or something, usually the fence people have a sheet that has
The
this
The
little,
product that they're gonna
the
use.
product section.
Like that spec plan of street?
Yeah, it's even a lot less technical.
Yeah,
It
this is,
it says type, they'll have 5 different types of that fence you described, and then you'll just circle, we're gonna use type B, which has a 4x4 post and is 4 feet tall and has the bars spaced at whatever, 6 inches on center. So I think if you bring that back, we can approve the whole package, as we have to approve the actual fence, but I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree.
And so we're here again on the 14th.
14,
Yeah.
I'll be back.
We're listening. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think it's clear now. I think you just, we'll bring that back. It'll just be a sort of formality. And actually, it's better to come. I was gonna say we can approve it without here, but we'll get you on out of here quickly. Yes, I do. Okay, motion to continue this to the next, hearing. Dale seconds, unanimous. Thanks. Twenty Judson Avenue, please.
No Judson?
Shed.
100 Main Street.
100 Main.
I'm Bradley Olson from Gotham Design. I couldn't be here tonight because it's the original area meeting. So obviously I'm here to discuss 100 Main Street. He gave me a written statement, which kind of gives the history of how we got to where we are here, which I can obviously read, but I'm thinking, let me show you what we've done first.
Sure.
And then
Was that the letter included in the package?
I think there's more information in here in terms of the history of the communication and email, but, so, this is also bringing me up to speed since, he has the benefit of having participated in all this, so it's all fresh in his head.
Okay.
Obviously, so let me show you what we're looking at, and then if I need to go through the history.
Sure.
we'll do that. In the previous incarnation, there was concern about the appearance of the building looking like it was multiple buildings as opposed to one integrated. So what we've done is this area, the area that makes the connection between the new construction and the existing building, we've strengthened that connection. So we're carrying the roof across and the detail across, and we're also carrying the porch across, which again strengthens the connection between this component of the building and the roof of the building. So, my understanding is it's been determined by the planning board that this is one building, but I know that's a concern for many people. So making this component this part on the first floor is existing. That does already extend out past, but there's shed roofs going in this direction. By turning the shed and having it connect across between these two anchor end elements and across the base of this and carrying this cornice around, it gives the reader a stronger connection between the components. Following that a step further, it is not our recommendation, but as a point of observation, if we didn't, if we kind of ignored the previous expressions of concern about breaking down the mass, if we made this all consistent material, it again reinforces the fact that it would look stronger as one building. We think that the other concerns about breaking down the mass are valid. We agree with them. We like them. We think it makes sense to do that. But again, just as a demonstration that this, again, makes it read more as a singular building. That's potentially an option, but again, not something that we would recommend. We think that this is a preferable appearance. The other thing, of course, is that we are here because this building is actually before the planning board. So before the board of trustees. The planning board has already made their recommendation for approval in May. And they've asked, the board of trustees has asked for your participation at this stage, which is why we're here. So we're not asking for architectural review board approval. We're asking for, the board of trustees is asking for your input at this point. So what we're really looking for is for the board to act. You can make a recommendation to approve, which of course is what we prefer. You can make a recommendation to approve with modifications. You can make a recommendation to deny.
I understand that process. Why don't you take us through the whole presentation, and then if we have some questions, we'll address those, and then we will make our recommendation to the board of trustees after tonight.
These drawings show the most most, clearly, but there's also, the elevation drawing. This is the previous elevation that was submitted, which has this shed roof coming across and then space in this shed roof, and it has this not relating to that. And the new elevation carries the roof across and connects this building with this piece. Integrates those better by carrying the cornice around and the roof around, and having that roof also carry around the property. That's the gist of this. I mean, if you want me to read that statement, obviously I can. It's, again, what, we've been before you for several months. But
Yes.
but you will of course have the opportunity to go through your typical process once we decide that approval. So we're really in the site plan approval phase, we've been to the planning board, we're at the board of trustees.
Yeah, I understand all that. I think we had at the last meeting, which was a couple months ago, I would say, sometime in August. We had, or end of July. We had.
We were here in August. Twice.
That's fine. We had a couple of concerns. One of them was an issue raised by some members of the community about the value of the historic narrative of the barn as it relates to several other structures on the aqueduct. And so it's still a very pertinent question, and this will obviously be part of our note to the Board of Trustees, but we believe that some resolution as to the value of this barn, both as an independent structure, but also as part of a story that that we may want to maintain of the aqueduct. We believe it's imperative we have a specialty consultant review this barn structure and review the string of barns along the aqueduct. And so we have solicited proposals for some historic preservationists, ones that specialize in barns, to review this. And we're going to forward that on to the building department and start that process. Because without that, I don't think we're ever going to put to rest the question of the value of this structure in and of itself. So that's one component to address the one issue. I think there was another issue which was about which you discussed a little bit, which was the reading of the building as three separate buildings. The third item was this sense of the center element floating, which I don't know if we've talked about at all, how and with what kind of detailing or changes to massing you've addressed that latter item.
Obviously the component of it looking like three separate buildings, we've certainly attempted to address, and we believe we have. I know that the concern of other neighbors, is generated primarily by Steve Tilley. The idea that this needs to be one building, code-wise, it's one building, that has been determined. Appearance-wise, having it look like different elements gives you that read that there are smaller components to this, which we think is highly desirable. It was identified by the AHRB in June of 2015.
Yeah, I know, that part's not.
When the AHRB made a recommendation for approval of a much larger scheme. So in June of 2015, the AHRB made a recommendation in conjunction with the planning board at a joint meeting, and they made a recommendation for approval of a much larger scheme. That then when we went to the planning board actually requested that it be reduced in scale. So the planning board and, so that was done and was responded to. So this used to have another story on it. So everyone seems to be in agreement that having this have the appearance of smaller components is a preferable thing. If we look across the street, there would be all they load. I have pictures of the building across the street. So this is Steve Tilley's building. Now, arguably, this clearly and distinctly has the appearance of at least 3, if not 4, separate buildings. This was built at one point. The collision of these roofs is not something that would be typically done intentionally. This was done as one building. This was perhaps done as one, but it looks like this was done as one, this was done as another, and this is done as yet another. So here are clearly 4 different components. The difference is that they're all right at the street and create a plane here, whereas we're setting back and creating more variation, which we think, again, is positive. So,
Yeah, I understand that. There's 2. 1, we're not addressing this building. And 2, we're not arguing the fact that some playfulness in the composition is valuable. So I think we agree on that point. I was simply stating the 3 issues that we discussed at the last meeting. And my question for you is in what way did you address that 3rd item, which had to do with the kind of floating nature of the center portion? It's addressed in your letter.
okay.
And so I'm asking for what happened visually or structurally or material-wise. I can't, looking at that image on the screen right now, I can't tell what's going on behind.
The thing is that the introduction of this new roof or the new bring it forward hides the problem that we were discussing last time. However, one of my problems with this introduction of this roof line or breezeway or whatever you want to call it is that decrease or confuses the independence of the barn as a barn, especially when you look from down the street from the main street up. I don't think it's that I prefer that the way it was before without that roof.
Actually, well, let's look. I believe this was there as it.
No, now it's brought forward much more, right?
No, the difference in the roof is down at this end.
Oh, okay.
This is consistent with.
That was there before?
Yeah, it's just here, it carries across to integrate, and this became an element that tied in with this cornice in order to.
Okay, so my bad.
But I think you've created sort of a faux porch on the front.
Yeah.
Is that accurate, where the 4 columns are now in front of the fire exit stair?
No.
Was that always as that was?
Yeah, that's consistent. There's a, you can walk through that. It's a real porch.
Yeah. I think the connection to the existing building does make it look more like one building, and you do have different elements and finishes to break it up, which, to Mike's point, has a playful element to it that looks nice. It breaks up the building the massing, especially if you went to one finish across, or a couple different finishes, like the other rendering that you would put up. And I know they put the, I know you enclose the back a little bit. It's not fully enclosed. It's still open air, right? It's just a, on the back side, yeah.
Right, no, it's still, it's, that was one of the other concerns, was the solidity of the base, so we did address that and make that more solid.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
I think that the joint memo with the planning board that we issued last year,
Yeah.
I think it's still valid. And the only question that we need to address here is I think exceeds our expertise, which is the barn as
Yeah,
an element to be respected and kept and
right. And
restored.
that's one of the things Patty mentioned, is I know that he said that, we haven't been able to provide any proof that,
Correct,
well,
so-
our thinking is that it was torn down and rebuilt in 1943. And I know Steve thinks it was built in 1885.
Which probably,
Neither one of us-
either party, we don't exceeds our expertise. That's why we are trying to get a third party report that confirms the.
My understanding is that both the boards, the viability of saving it is also really in question.
Yes,
I was in it.
we agree. And going back to the joint memo, I think it's still valid, and it's been a big effort to work within those parameters. Yeah.
Because that memo referred to 3 years, that was back, we were doing something similar to what was across the street, and we were told to need to provide parking, which we now have. So it was kind of broader strokes,
Right.
issues in that. But again, what we're looking for at this point is we're not before the Ahrb, excuse me, for approval. The planning board has asked for your input.
Correct.
So this is your opportunity to provide that input. If you prefer not to provide that input, then make that determination so that the planning board can move on. So that's what we're looking for, is you can recommend an approval, you can recommend an approval with modifications, you can recommend the approval with the research that you want to do on the barn. Or you can tell the planning board, the board of trustees, rather, that you don't care to comment. But it's, but now, they're looking to finish.
That's very clear, understood, thanks. I think we have, is there any more questions on our part? No. There's no motion because this is not an application, but we will be, we'll send a letter to the trustees. Is it an application, Ed?
Yeah, I didn't see the application. It sounds like referral. So.
Yeah, I mean.
Should make a motion that you're going to refer a letter to the board of trustees.
Okay, motion that this board convey our comments to the board of trustees for the next hearing.
I'll second.
Yeah, seconds. Thank you. And when is the next board of trustees meeting? You know when this will be addressed at the,
Usually the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. I don't know if they've made any changes to their schedule.
It's November 1st.
November 1st, thank you. Good, I was hoping it wasn't tomorrow, so, which is often how it works for us. Okay, so we'll get our comments together and get the board something before then. Thank you. Are you also here for 2 Ashford?
I am.
Okay, so 2 Ashford Avenue. And I read this letter. I think the most helpful thing for us would be for you to just go through and show us the 2 areas that are that are different.
Well, maybe should I just bring this up?
Yeah, I definitely, we definitely can't see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, I mean, we have
Yeah.
our sheets.
The area that we're looking to change is bubbled on the south elevation and on the east elevation.
Okay. So,
Is the entire drawing set? Or just the set relative,
actually-
just the drawings relative to what we have to review?
Actually, that set is the shop drawings for the stone.
For all of it?
Which is something that, yeah, which is for the entire building, which is something that Patty did also want to confirm that, again, if you had any input or any comments on.
That's why the owner has an architect. We don't approve shop drawings.
We're not looking for approval of shop drawings, but we know that there's been a very high level of scrutiny, very high level of detail on
Okay.
it. So the shop drawings were provided so that if you did have comments, that,
Okay.
you could make them.
All right.
We worked very hard to get the coursing to work properly, and to work comfortably. So there are some subtle, again, this is the magic word, intent. There's no question that it is consistent with the intent of the drawings, but now that it's been worked out by the fabricator, we don't want, if we're gonna err on the side of caution and make sure that this board has seen it and has the opportunity to opine if they think that something is not consistent with the intent of the original.
So, just question, this document that we have this is the approved document of, on the 2012, correct?
Yes.
This is the one that we need to.
There's two separate issues. The shop drawings is one. The
The
issue,
drawings is material, I understand.
yeah,
But in terms of the documents that we're having, this is the document that was approved in 2012, and this is the document that is the intention to review.
correct.
And the change is,
The change is on the south and east elevations that previously had a stone base
Mhm.
that was not the same height as the stone base on the Wall Grove and Ashford elevations.
how different is this application, the new one that you're showing is from the approved by the ZBA?
It's the subtle change of replacing some of the stone
With
with brick.
Some of most, well.
So the
Essentially the
ZBA
entire
approved something
compound.
different from 2012 and what we have in today?
well, yes.
Yes.
Because essentially the ZBA approved as built, or they didn't, they just,
No, it wasn't an as-built.
well, it wasn't an as-built, but the 2012 approved drawings were different from what
They
was.
approved the plans that came to you that you denied.
That's right. And those are different from the 2012 drawing that we have here.
Right.
Because there was a change in the modular construction process that
I just
we
want to make
had
sure
a
that
problem with.
what we are here reviewing doesn't supersede the application of the ZBA.
No, because the massing of this building,
Well, yes, of course I do, but the issue is that, your question is the change identified on the wrong drawing? And I believe we can answer that irrespective of that question. Because what the change is essentially to reduce the amount of the stone base in exchange for brick base. And
Somehow I recall we looked at this already.
yes, we did. We already addressed this question at one of the many meetings with when we were addressing the whole building. And one of our concerns were that the building is seen three-dimensionally, and we wanted to maintain a stone base, the first floor as a stone base, which was the initial intent and and what was approved by a board of all members who are no longer on this board. And so, not having any of those people here, what we tried to do was maintain as close, to that original approved drawing. And so, because we know how hard those people worked over years and years to get this building to where it was. So I think our position remains the same, which is that we, if you're asking about the change from stone to brick on the rear south elevation and on the east elevation. We're not content with that change.
Well, the basis for it, I mean, was that it actually made it, it's fairly consistent. If you look at other buildings in the area, and Patty actually just took this picture, which is the building, it's obviously not next door, which is Shakespeare's, the next one up.
Mhm.
It's a fairly common thing, which we're actually showing on this building, to have the street elevations have a higher level of detail and have the rear or side elevations be intentionally and specifically secondary to those. So if you look at the south elevation, as you drive down Wall Grove, you'll see that full stone base on that element that projects forward, and then the element that projects back still has the stone base which carries that line around and gives that strong datum as the stone base. But introducing the brick here, we already had it stepped down as an effort to make it read kind of secondary to the other elevations. But the material change actually seemed to reinforce that and make that, clearly make the east and the south elevations secondary to the Wall Grove and Ashford elevations, which is consistent in those types of buildings. You can see right here, it just comes around the corner a little bit. On this one, it comes around, and what's happening here ends, and then these elevations are less highly detailed.
I understand that, and I don't disagree at all that we treat different elevations differently in certain types of buildings, certain types of applications, but
I'm still confused, I'm sorry to be.
No.
This elevation is the one that was approved by the ZBA, correct? This configuration of reduced base, stone base, and brick.
No, the one,
No.
The bubble, what's in the bubble on that elevation is the change.
No, but one second, from the ZBA approval, did the ZBA approve full base of stone?
They did, but it wasn't part of the discussion. Because they were looking at the issues they were looking at were the changes because of the modular construction.
our
So
denial
they
was
were-
based
so they
on
were-
massing.
Right.
It was not based on material. We had no dispute, and we had no issue with
I know what you're getting.
material changes. Those were all agreed to
I think
by Patty at the previous.
Trying to bring the full drawing that was approved.
I mean, I wasn't part of the board, or I wasn't part of the board at the actual denial, right? But I can say unequivocally, right, that the first floor stone looks 1,000 times better than the brick around the bottom, right? And that's just layman, just looking at the materials, looking at the building, just looking at the overall aesthetics of the building and what it is. It's much better as previously approved than what you're proposing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we disagree, otherwise I wouldn't be proposing it, so that's.
So I concur with the previous determination from this board that,
And that's why I think I understand what you're getting at, but I think the point is a moot one, because if you agree with what Brandon and I are saying about the rear elevation, then it doesn't matter if it's drawn on the 2012 or on the ZBA approved drawing from 2016.
Yeah, the ZBA didn't actually, it wasn't before them really. They didn't look at that because it wasn't part of what they needed to be considering. They were considering the massing changes as a result of the switch from stick-built construction to the modular construction. So that wasn't a topic for their discussion. It wasn't specifically part of their approval or not. Obviously, if you don't like it, that's another issue. If you preferred it, it wouldn't be in conflict with the ZBA approval to do it. And obviously, if you don't prefer it, then that's a separate issue, clearly.
I think it would make sense if you had the chase up against the existing building where you didn't have such a dimension where you can see behind it to see the continuation of that stone as you make the corner. Because any pedestrian or anybody that walks by sees it as you walk around that edge, and then
Well, the chase, as you're walking down Ashford,
you see it from one
and,
way.
what you're really going to see as you're walking.
But every
Ashford-
patron going to the chase, right, parks in that parking lot, walks back, sees the back alley, right, the side alley to the building, and sees the continuation to the stone, as opposed to a watermark, it's a full stone wall.
Yeah.
And then the rear is really not a rear, right, because it's basically open to everybody coming down Walgrove. It's not really the rear of a building, it's just a different side facing, it's the rear of the property. But you can, it's very much viewable to the public as you come down the street towards the intersection of Ashford and Broadway, so.
No, it is visible, you know, and what you're gonna see from Ashford is gonna be consistent, you know, the stone turns the corner as it did, and then it drops down as it did. This was already brick, and it just has the stone going across. So, you know, carrying that stone across there from the Chase parking lot, if you see it over the fence. It'll look
Where's the
different
fence?
As you see it from,
What fence?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good photo. We had an earlier application, you know, I know that part of the initial approval of this building from 2012, the previous board, was that they wanted all these faces treated immodestly. So there was no humble rear facade that is less visible than the Main Street facade. And that's the thing that I am saying that I would like to maintain. And so that's why I not agree with this change of material. So I think we should get the other board members' opinions. I don't know, yeah, if you need to
Well,
see the other drawing first.
my
before you-
opinion is not about the materials, it's about being respectful to the, not to all to the zoning board, but to the 2012 application approval. Because I understand it took a long time to consider. It's not my liking or not, it was approved this way.
well,
So I'm
construction
trying to
is-
be respectful to it.
Yeah, thankfully, construction is underway again. If it makes sense to wait until the next meeting.
So the
I don't
other
I
consideration
don't
is
wanna wait.
how much,
My opinion's not
the motivation is aesthetics or cost?
This motivation is purely aesthetics. You know, because if it was going to the stucco, that would be a cost savings, but for the brick to the stone, to be honest, I'm not actually even sure if Bruno knows that we're here. This is Patty who's looking at it, and then this was, you know, his preference.
Yeah, that's, so.
This is what we agreed to.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have one, there's a, yeah, we have this. So really, this drawing, I guess it's a good question, right? Are you doing that extra brick or not?
Don't ruin his drawing.
Don't, you can't. No, that's not,
That's what we have.
unfold it again. Not ruining his drawing. That's different, right? You see that? Because this line used to be over here somewhere.
Yeah, it used to be like in.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
So you see we're now
What is it, this is stucco?
all stuck up.
I'm less
fine.
about that than I would be
I
about
agree.
this, right?
Yeah, I agree.
There's not a different plane here, right? They were just breaking it up with a different element?
That's right.
That was one of the things we looked at.
This-
Because the change in the massing.
This is-
I don't mind this.
This is,
There you go, you just saved money.
No, wait. This is not, we're talking about this.
I understand.
no, we're talking about the difference between these two.
Yeah, but I get it, but there is a stone base.
But they're
And there
missing a
is a
cloud
stucco.
too, right? This should be clouded. Because this is also a change being identified as part of this as compared to the latest approved drawing.
Yeah, but I understand that the materials were not part of the consideration, it was massing and.
Okay.
Yeah, but if a drawing is approved by the ZBA and it has a different rear elevation,
So we need to
then
identify.
it
It
has
should
to
be
be
clouded.
addressed. Yeah, I mean, it
Well,
just,
well,
because
well,
we have to be clear about what we're changing from the ZBA approved drawing.
So going back to our approval, this already is different from the 2000, the ZBA.
Mhm.
Correct.
It has to be identified somehow.
Yeah.
I scan these approved ones, send them to the board and the applicant to clarify for the next meeting?
I think that makes sense.
Makes sense.
I think we ran into this problem the first time around, which is, I think, the clarity of the differences between the drawings that are being presented to us and the drawings that were approved previously are extremely important, because they cause a lot of problems few months ago. So I think, we need to look at those drawings a little more closely than, on the fly in a meeting. But I think I'm pretty clear about how my opinion about the base. I believe it should remain as approved as stone.
And your shop drawing showed it as brick, that piece of stucco at the south elevation.
Yeah, but.
Just so you know.
My opinion is, I will relax on the stuff when I'm there.
No, I'm just pointing out the discrepancy in the shop drawings that were provided for additional detail
Yeah.
and the elevation drawings that were provided. So I agree,
shop
I
drawings
think,
actually show
I think the
that
stucco
basis.
actually looks better than the brick in that elevation,
Yeah.
at that specific
I agree with you.
elevation. But the stone at the base is, the entire bottom floor is preferred, and I think it's an unwavering detail of the, for me, it's pretty unwavering. I don't think a brick at the base floor is gonna suffice.
Okay. So what we'll do is, we'll actually, at the next meeting, provide a drawing that shows that,
Yeah,
and shows that with the stone base
this is
again,
stone,
to give you,
and this stays as is.
right, and to give you the option to discuss and approve one of those, but that way there'll be a drawing that will go on record as having been one.
All right, so I'll make a motion, we will continue this for the 14th, for the next meeting, and we'll address those other issues.
Thank you very much.
Second? Yeah, your second. Unanimous. Thank you. And I got a, 51 Grand, I got an application for 51 Grandview in my packet, but they were not on the set.
Oh, 51 Grandview. A while ago, they came in to Brian, months ago. And he denied it because it broke the setback. There's some stairs going up to a landing.
Okay.
They never came in with the zoning application. Months later, they came in and asked why they weren't on the board. We didn't come into your application for the zoning board. I took a look at it, and I said that because there's an exemption in our code for covered porches, which are 1 story high, that this could break the setback. It's on the 2nd floor, but the code says a 1-story porch, not a 1st-story porch or that description. But then when I looked at, so I put them on the Ahrb agenda. But then when I looked at it again, the code, the exemption also says it can't be more than 50% of the width of that plane.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took the stairs and the porch together, it was more than 50%.
Yeah.
So I took them off this agenda and sent them to the ZBA.
Okay. So they'll come back around at some point. and-
If they get the
If they
ZBA
get the
approval or change their plans.
Okay. So we'll look at it.
There are minutes that Dick is not here, so we have to approve.
Well, let's,
If you have a quorum,
Yeah, but
who's there?
a quorum, two is a quorum?
no.
What, depends how many members there were at the time of the minutes.
I thought we needed,
So the 3 of them.
I thought we need,
You need
I
at
need,
least 3 to make a quorum.
Okay. So that means that we
so,
review the minutes.
all right, we'll motion to continue the minutes of the next application.
One second.
Yeah, your seconds. Unanimous. Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Yeah, your seconds, unanimous. Meeting adjourned.
20?
Thank you.
Yeah, to be continued. Yeah, but we have to vote.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes,
So
motion to continue 20 Judson until the next meeting.
Second.
Dale seconds. unanimous.